Welcome back, guys, to Auto Talk with Jazz. I am your host, Jazmine Booker, and we are back with our part two with Dr. Rob Leon. If you didn't, if you missed the first part, you missed a ton of great information, but you are able to go back and listen to it. So definitely do so before you listen to the second one. Obviously, now we're going to go over the second framework, which is amazing. And again, I love both of them just because they have pictures of cars. Actually, one of them is an acronym that spells car. So that's the reason why I love that one as well. But again, sit back, relax, take notes. We are going to have the pictures of both of the frameworks on the social media. That way you can get to them. And also, if you have any questions or you just want to figure out how to better your organization, definitely reach out to Rob at his website, which we will link down below. So without further ado, and so now I would like to go to the other one, which
Okay.
is, I believe, oop, sometimes my phone, I'm pulling it up so that way I can see it.
Yeah.
So it's the trust and alignment framework. This one I know we talked a lot about because it's actually more geared towards the leadership, the manager
Yeah.
role, and what it is that they should do as far as doing that self um going into their self and saying, okay, what is it that I want to be, I guess, as a manager to
Yeah.
my team, and
Yeah.
what is it that I can do to help make my team feel
Yeah.
these four things, and what is it that I'm good at, what I'm not good at type situation. So if you can just kind of go a little bit into that framework.
So you want to explain what it looks like?
Yes, so again, I've already stated anything that deals with cars, I love. And so this is actually drive this drive shaft system. So it has the four tires or the four wheels, and it actually has like the rear differential, the front the transfer case. Like it actually has the drive shaft system, the drive axle system, and it actually talks about like how each wheel or how each axle works together to move the car forward, in a way. And I looked at it and was like, you already in the previous model talked about the car. So I was already like excited because I saw that first. But when
Yeah.
I saw this, it was like, you can even use this for yourself. And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh my gosh, we got another car. And so that's what I love about this one.
Terrific. Okay. So thanks for that intro. That helps. So let me back up a little bit. What do I do? In addition to teaching students, my work is trying to demystify stuff and to take concepts that are really squishy and tough to deal with and present them in a way that at least I have a model to work off of.
Mhm.
Without a model, where do we begin? Right? All of us. Like, if we don't have any education or framework in terms of leadership, right? We know that oftentimes people get promoted into leadership roles, but they don't have any of the skills or the capabilities to be there. They might have been a high performer, but it
Mhm.
doesn't mean high performance equals leadership acumen, right? So I like models. That's what I base my whole program around for my students. That's what my life is kind of like. If I can't figure it out, I go to a model first, then
Mhm.
I know how to navigate it to move forward, right? So what we have here, we have four wheels, and each wheel identifies a leadership attribute or a leadership consideration. And this is intended for leaders and managers to help them better understand if they deploy these four pieces, they get these four wheels moving, they're probably more likely to connect with the needs and the interests of their people. So, what are those four? So, the first one is consistency. Why is consistency important? Well, what we do, and even young and early on in our life, we learn to watch patterns. And patterns help us predict and anticipate people's behavior and decisions. So, when you have a team, consistency is important because what it does in a way is if you're consistent, it empowers your people to understand how you might react to both good news and bad news. Now, I'm not saying that you're not crunchy or kind of a jerk. If you're crunchy or a jerk, be consistently crunchy or a jerk, right? That's what I'm trying to say is that don't kind of ebb and flow like nice as pie at one point when things are good, but then fly off the handle when things are bad. Like try to manage that so that you're consistently at that same energy line for the most part, generally speaking. Because what it does is it helps people understand, look, I made a mistake. Maybe I broke something on a car that
Hmm.
it does those little plastic tabs. I'm removing the dash and now it won't stay back on, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I have to admit to it because someone's going to figure this out that when it's flopping around when the air conditioner is going, right? So if I feel like my boss is going to chew me out and throw me under the bus and bully me and belittle me, I might take the chance to having a dissatisfied customer and hopefully they get off the shop floor, they get it out of the lot and they take it and they don't learn about it until months down the road and they're not sure what happened. Right. So what we're essentially doing is we're like hiding skeletons in the closet or sweeping things
Exactly.
under the rug. Right. Whereas if you know at least Rob has your back regardless. And I let you make small mistakes and we learn from them, and we try to minimize the big mistakes. That's a lot more inviting, especially with a young, new technician, right? Like someone that's new that is going to make mistakes, right? We actually normalize it. We talk about it when we bring them in and say, look, I remember making mistakes. I know you don't want to, you will. And I'm here to help. And my door's always open. Trying to make it inviting. So consistency is the first one. The next one's accountability. And what that means is helping people remain accountable. So we've all worked in work environments where someone gets away with
Everything.
non-desirable. We used to call it murder, right? Get away with murder, right? Not the best. But yeah. But maybe they're cutting corners.
Yeah.
They're doing something or coming in late and the rest of the staff has to pick up their slack, whatever it is. The leader's not holding a person accountable or the entire team accountable. You have to keep that in mind. You have to hold everyone accountable the same. That you just don't pick, well, I'm more comfortable talking to Jasmine, so I'm going to hold her accountable more
Hmm.
because of that. That's not right either. But what happens is we train people on how they behave based on how they watch us hold other people accountable. So if I am not having difficult conversations with someone and not holding them accountable for when
Hmm.
they're late or making mistakes, then the other staff starts to look at this and go, huh, well, Rob doesn't have a backbone. Maybe I'm going to start taking longer lunches or calling in sick more or cutting corners on my job or whatever you want to call it. So accountability is a huge factor for organizations. The other thing is the byproduct of this, when you do hold people accountable is that you're more likely to generate trust. Now that
Hmm.
seems counterintuitive. People would be like, well, no, if I'm holding people accountable, people won't trust me. Well, let's be clear. I think we are our own biggest critics
Hmm.
and we know when we're skirting corners, we're cutting corners. Now, if I don't hold you accountable and you know you cut the corner and I know you cut the corner, that erodes your confidence in me. It erodes your
Yeah.
respect in me, right?
Or even
So,
your confidence in you, because it's
yeah,
like if you're gonna let me skirt around this,
yeah,
exactly how many other things are you allowing everybody else to skirt around that
exactly.
is way more important than me just coming in late?
Exactly. Exactly. So, accountability and consistency are key and huge. One of the other tires, connection. We talked about that in motivation. It's the same thing is true for the people in the workplace. They need connection. They need to have a connection with a supervisor. Doesn't have to, like I said, doesn't have to be super emotional. But I recognize you for who you are, right?
Mhm,
Earlier, I said I need to handle everyone the same as it relates to accountability.
mhm,
Same means relative to the person I'm working with. Same means consistent energy
yeah,
across all people, but how I connect with you might be a little bit different than how I connect with Fred and that messaging that occurs. Same thing with checking in on a car. How I check in with Fred would be different than you would be different than Renee. right?
Exactly.
So connection is super important. The last item is safety. And we often think about this as physical safety, but what we've done is we've done a really good job monitoring, like with OSHA, physical safety, PPE, right?
Mhm.
Stuff like that. What I'm talking about here is actually psychological safety. And what psychological safety is feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling like you could speak up and share a dissenting opinion without being held um, uh, what was I going to say? Without being thrown under the bus, without
Yeah.
being
Feeling like
oh my gosh,
you're getting in trouble for it or feeling like you're
yes,
being punished.
retribution. That was the
Yeah.
word that was on my tongue. It's been a long day. Without retribution, without bullying, without and you've been in organizations like this.
Retaliation or anything.
Retaliation, exactly. You've seen people in rooms say, "Hey, anyone else have an opinion right now or an idea how we should handle this?" And no one wants to speak up because they know that that supervisor is going to lay into them or going to make fun of them or whatever. And that is low psychological safety. So when we package those four things together, if I could have a manager practice consistency, accountability, connection, and psychological safety, my people are going to be better off. And what happens is along the drivetrain, right? That's the middle section there.
Mhm.
We have four other elements. We have joy, meaningful work, compassion, and vulnerability. And those are the human essence. Those are the human aspects of people, and those are the things that are really going to make the work get done and get done well. But I want you to have joy in the workplace. You can't have joy if I'm not consistent, I'm not holding people accountable, I'm not connecting, and then I'm not creating psychological safety, right? You also have an appreciation for vulnerability. I need to be vulnerable, you will be vulnerable. And we tend to level up with each other as we start to see that. And that's what relationships are built upon is vulnerability. But also trust in the workplace is if I disclose, look, I'm having a tough week. Anyone else having a tough week? I know we had we lost power or whatever, and then we're behind and we're struggling to keep up. It's just been tough on me. Anyone else feeling pretty beaten up? There's nothing wrong with that and having that with your staff. As a leader, you're connecting with them. You're sharing the emotional load of the experience. Um, so it's
And
welcome.
it shows
It's
that basically you understand that they might be going through the same struggles. Because what if
absolutely
it was hard on you and you're struggling with it too? You're also a manager. Think
exactly.
managers forget that they're humans too,
Yes.
and they also need shoulders to, kinda lean on as well. That doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean, like, put everything on your employee's shoulders, but
Exactly.
you can share back and forth ideas like, "Hey, was this hard for anybody else? Because I kinda feel like it was hard for everybody." And if
Yeah.
that's the case, y'all can have an open communication about that.
Yeah. Doesn't mean we just shut up. We just close down
Mhm.
shop for the day. It just means that we're sharing and we're
Right.
connecting. And you are
Or
right.
have that
People,
15-minute meeting, you know?
yeah, yeah, exactly. We actually, with our clients, when we do workshops, we do an emotion check-in. And so there's this thing called a moodometer.
Mm,
And there's about 100 emotions. And, far sides are red, green, blue, yellow.
mm,
Yeah, I think so. And what happens is as you move towards the center, the colors change. But we check in with people to see how they're feeling today. Like, how are you feeling? Pick two emotions, and it's you could be I'm happy and stressed, or I'm anxious and glum. You know what I mean? And it helps you read the room so you know how to handle the next steps. So if your team is super stressed, maybe I need to change it up and lighten the mood. Maybe I'm gonna bring in donuts, put some more music on. We'll just lighten the atmosphere here because people are dealing with some heavy, heavy stuff, right? So it's just a way to connect with people. I also
yeah,
know, and my staff and my people, my clients, they'll do a check-in, and then if
mhm.
someone's red and they're angry, it's not a good time to have a difficult conversation with them. I'm going to let them tomorrow. I'll come back to them. So anyway, getting back to our model here.
But, like,
The,
also don't tell them, "Oh, you can only have 2 minutes to yourself," because I could
yeah,
probably it's probably gonna worsen their mood.
yeah,
Not
exactly.
put I mean, obviously, don't tell them that take as much time as you need because they may not come
Right.
back.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
let them know, like, hey, if you take a little bit more than 5 minutes because you're still not over it, come talk to us so we can talk through this
Yeah,
situation and actually listen to them. Do not just be
yeah,
like, oh, okay, get back to work.
yeah.
Like,
Or why don't you take your lunch now? Because
mhm,
it give you more time just to pull
to
yourself
breathe,
together. Yeah,
do something. Or like, oh, hey, we see you're close to your break. Just go
yeah,
on your break. You
yeah,
just go ahead.
yeah. Exactly. Okay, so the last two features are compassion, because I think we want compassionate people in our life. We want people to be empathetic and to understand. They don't necessarily have had to live in our shoes, but what we want are people to at least acknowledge that, hey, at the very least, I don't know what you're going through or you're experiencing, but I know this is tough on you, so I'm here for you, right?
Exactly.
And gives them that space. And then the last one is meaningful work. Just like joy, meaningful work is important. That people need to feel like it's in line with their value, their goals, it's helping them accomplish what they want in life. Part of work is money, right? So we can live and have some fun, but that's not all of it. I want to have fun. I'll tell you, I didn't share this with you. I bought a Angie and I bought a 2016 Ford Transit, extra tall, 15 passenger van bus type of thing during COVID. I gutted it. She and I gutted it and rebuilt it into this camper that has full electricity, refrigerator, sink, water system, electric awning, all this thing, because I love working with my hands. And so
Right.
that was meaningful work for me. I do a lot of like talking and teaching and
Right.
stuff, which I love. It's fun, but
Right.
I like to see the fruits of my labor. And so
Mhm.
I took
Like
a
the
big
physical
van.
things and
Yeah.
problem solving and figuring things out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suspect there's a lot of people in your field that they enjoy working with their hands. So let's not take that away from them. Let's not erode that experience, that something they love, with the stress and the drama of being a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, don't try to derail people's experiences because you feel like one of the just real quick, one of the things that I was always getting whenever I was a claims adjuster is I would answer the phones. Um, and the people I was talking to would always say, "Oh yeah, I got 20 years experience knowing how to work on a car." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I know how to work on the same car, and I actually worked for the manufacturer and know what you did was incorrect, and that doesn't work." And so, you have these conversations, but
Yeah.
then you turn around and the managers kind of do the same exact thing to you. And it's
Yeah.
as if all the hard work that you just
Yeah.
did, all of the knowledge that you acquired throughout your career didn't matter. It didn't matter
Yeah.
that you two knew what they were talking about or what they were doing. And so I feel like with managers, not they tend not to just step on your toes, but they tend to just throw everything that you know out of the way because maybe that's not what they believe at that
Yeah.
point, or it's a hard conversation that you're going
Yeah.
to have with them in a way.
Yeah. It's tough, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all human, and we all succumb to different stressors, pressures,
Mhm.
behaviors, and even the most awful person, that's a manifestation of some of the rough things that they're working through in their life, right? And so I think it's important for us to always have a little bit of grace and space in our heart for people, because all of us take our turns at not being the best versions of ourselves. And
We're
and
humans.
it yeah, and it's important that we have a community around us to catch us, to help us, to support us, to maybe lend us a hand, because right now I just can't do it. I need some help.
And
So,
we also have to understand that sucky days are a part of life, you know?
yeah,
Um, and also, sucky calls or sucky clients or,
yeah,
you know, just understanding that everybody's going to have a bad day and the next day could be great, or
yeah,
maybe you have to wait another month because there are
yeah,
times where that sucky day turns into a sucky month.
Yeah.
Um, but being okay with that and also having a game plan for when you get out of that sucky moment and being
Yeah.
able to have, like you said, that community to come back and say, okay, listen, this month was sucky. What are we going to do different in the next month when you're not in that sucky position
Yep.
to do what's right, to get prepared, to get ready? Because you know you're going to have a sucky month. We already see it. We got it. Cool. Next month,
Yeah.
we're going to do well.
Yeah.
But don't just say we're going to do well. What is the plan? What is the
Yeah.
action behind it? Or what is the goal that we can do and kind of pivot to doing better?
Yeah.
Because I think
We
a lot of
know.
times we can't pivot. There's
Yeah.
everybody likes the word pivot, but doesn't know how to do it.
we, we know that people do well with whether it's venting,
Hmm.
therapy, counseling. The moment we move something off our chest, it's incredibly empowering for us in many instances. And so you're right. Like you could end a month, and an activity we do with students and clients is called Start, Stop, and Continue. What is it about what we're doing, whether it's just this last month or in general, that we want to let's start do differently?
Hmm.
What's something that we've been doing that we want to continue that's working? And what's something that we want to stop? And when we as a community work through those rules and those conversations to determine what's our best viable plan forward. And you know, kind of like traditions,
Hmm.
not all tradition is meant to live forever. And so we
Yeah.
might make a decision in the workplace to try something out, and it might just run a quarter. And it's like, you know what? This is just too much heavy lifting. This is not working for us. It's time to sunset this piece. Let's go on to something else. We don't need to be tied and locked into everything. Safety first, right?
Right.
And then from there, compassion, support, uh, vulnerability, these things will help us be better humans and community members with each other.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's even close to what I told you about earlier on our outside of the meeting, which was what I do, which is do it, critique it, fix it, and repeat.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
sometimes you got to figure out what is working and what is not working.
Yeah,
Whether or not you bumped your head doing it the hard way, or
yeah,
whether or not you did listen to the advice and not bump your head the hard way,
yeah,
and just going and moving forward because everybody's different and you don't know what is going to work until you try it, until you do
yeah,
it.
exactly.
So, with all of this, I always ask every guest, what is their
Uh-huh.
biggest piece of advice that you
Ooh.
have for someone who is either struggling with trying to come to terms with anything or just with this topic in general? What is one of your biggest pieces of advice?
Don't stop learning. Be a student of life. And that could include being a student of leadership. That could be just be a lifelong learner, you know, tune into every podcast you put out. You know what I mean? Like just there are direct benefits to us being curious. And they help make us more self-aware, or it helps us become more self-aware. And curiosity breeds patience. People need to be curious and be patient more. Um, Curiosity helps us to connect with people that are different than us, or maybe what they might look different than us, but after connecting with them, you learn that you have a lot in common. So, you know, just this growth mindset concept, learner mindset, be curious. Don't stop learning. Find something to do, even if it's something totally out of right field. We took our family, we got scuba certified this summer, something I always wanted to do. One of the things that I learned early on is in order to be a good teacher, I needed to be a good student. And so even though I was teaching at a university, I was still taking courses, whether it's at the university or somewhere else, to practice being a student. So practice what it's like to be new, unknown, learn, kind of like building my van. I had no idea. Learned it, worked on it, developed it, made some mistakes, bled a little bit. But, in the end, pretty awesome product there in the end. Same thing with life. Be a student of life. Read, listen, and explore.
And with that being said, how can everyone find you if they have any questions or if they
Oh,
really want to work with you?
yeah. Sure. Okay. So our company website is www.black, the color, river, then the letter P, and then the letter M. So it's essentially Black River Performance Management, but it's blackriverpandm.com. You get on that page, you'll have an opportunity to subscribe to our monthly newsletter where stuff like this comes out, podcasts come out, things like that. You can read about some of the blogs I write. But once you're on that page, you'll find our email address and you just reach out to us and you have questions. Also on LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, under Rob or Robert. And the last name is spelled like lion, Lion. So Rob Leon on LinkedIn, and you should be able to find me and connect with me there.
Cool, cool. And we'll also have the pictures and everything of the frameworks that we were just talking about because again, I love, 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 love the picture of the framework. It actually makes a lot of sense to me. So whenever you actually described it, it actually I'm a visual learner and a physical learner, so that actually helped
Yeah,
me instead of just listening to it. So that was an amazing, um, I guess, picture of what you were saying.
right.
But yeah, thank you so much for being on. It was amazing, and honestly, probably can't wait to have you on again. I don't know what else you're gonna come out with. I don't know what else we're going to talk about, but I'm
Yeah,
absolutely going to have you on again. So thank you so
I'd
much.
love it. Thanks, Jasmine. It was great to
Thank
spend
you.
time with you.